In this section, we discuss some important skills you need when barring in the workplace. These are tricks of the trade which will help you work smarter and safer. If you apply these tricks, your barring skills will improve. The 4 tricks of the trade are: 1. Use the best equipment correctly. 2. Choose the best position. 3. Read and sound the rock. 4. Buddy barring. Trick number 1. Use the best equipment correctly. A workman is only as good as his tools. We say this because you must have the best equipment to bar well. Your pinch bar is the key to successful barring. If you don't have a good pinch bar, which is the correct length, with a protective gasket, you won't be able to bar well. Check that the pinch bar is sharp at both ends and has a tightly secured gasket. When using the pinch bar, grip it firmly with both your hands behind the protective gasket. Push the pinch bar in an upwards and forward direction. Jab the end of the pinch bar properly into a fracture or crack in the rock before levering the rock away from the hanging wall. Remember, hold the rear end of the pinch bar to the side of your body. If you hold the pinch bar directly in front of you, the rear end may injure you. If you need to use the pinch bar for moving or lifting purposes, make sure to use strength from your legs and not your back. Using the power of your back is dangerous and can hurt you. Take care to carry the pinch bar below your shoulder level so that you do not injure fellow workers or hit objects around you. Lastly, make sure that your pinch bar is not damaged after you have used it. If there is any damage to the pinch bar, make sure that it is replaced. These parts include damaged ends to pinch bars and torn or loose gaskets. Trick number 2. Choose the best position. Use the correct posture. When barring in narrow stope conditions, the best position is kneeling with one foot on the ground. This position will help you jump out of the way fast enough if large rocks dislodge from the hanging wall while you are barring. When barring in a development end or high excavation, your legs should be slightly apart and firmly placed on the ground. Bar from an up-dip position. When choosing a position to bar from, always make sure that the loose rock you will dislodge will fall away from you. Even on a slight dip, a rock barred from the hanging wall will fall and move in the down-dip direction. This is why we say that the ideal position for anybody who is barring is up-dip from the rock. Never stand down-dip of rock that you are sounding and barring. Barring in unusual conditions. At times, you may find rock which is difficult to bar from an up-dip position, such as in raises. You may find that the only way that you can see the fractures of loose rock is when you are standing in a down-dip position. The only way to work with conditions like this is to stand to the side on the same level as the loose rocks, then examine the hanging wall and bar the hanging wall so that the rocks fall in front of you and roll down dip. Even in this unusual condition, make sure that you are standing at a slightly higher, stable position so that the rocks fall and roll away from you. Trick number 3. Read and sound the rock. For this trick of the trade, we need to understand how to interpret the orientation of discontinuities in the hanging wall. Discontinuities could be joints, bedding, stress, or blast fractures. It is important to understand how joints interact to form loose blocks of rock in the hanging wall. For this, we will go into the hanging wall and show you how joints and other discontinuities can make the hanging wall unstable. Let's look at the skills you need to find the rocks which you must bar down. To find these loose rocks while barring, we use a method called sounding. Sounding involves striking the end of the pinch bar against the hanging wall or side walls and listening carefully to the sound. If you hear a solid sound when striking the rock, the hanging wall is more likely to be stable and may not pose a high risk. If you hear a hollow sound, this is a sign that there is loose rock that you must do something about. You must either bar the rock down, or if the rock is too big, the area must be barricaded off and handled according to the procedures for your mine. Example 1. Have a look at this section of hanging wall. Before sounding, we can already see that these joints intersect. Sounding indicates that there is a loose rock in the hanging wall. Can you see that the edge has some fallout indicating a potential loose block? Also, notice the orientation of the jointing which creates these blocks in the hanging wall. So, what we are looking at here is a wedge. Sounding is a great way to find out whether a rock is in danger of falling, but it is only part of the skill which helps us find these rocks. It is just as important to visually inspect the hanging wall for signs of rocks that are loose. By looking at the hanging wall carefully, one can pick up clues about the hidden structure of the hanging wall. Some of these clues are fallout on jointing and the effect of joint infillings, brows, faults or slips, dikes and other intrusions, and groundwater dampening the area. Also, be aware of those geological structures that are specific to your mining environment only. Remember, just because the hanging wall sounds solid does not mean that it is safe. In fact, if the hanging wall sounds solid and the joint planes look like they intersect, the dangers may be far worse. Keep an eye on this area and judge when the wedge can be barred down safely or supported. Do not bar if you doubt that it can be done safely. Example 2. In this example, we see a large brow. When we sound the brow and hanging wall, it seems to be quite solid. But let's look carefully at the jointing. Do you notice the angle of the jointing? Notice how it dips at a high angle. What we seem to be looking at here is a very large brow created by a joint and bedding. For features this size, the hanging wall may still sound solid. Warning: it is important to understand that a solid sound with the pinch bar doesn't always mean that the hanging wall is safe. Once you discover a geological feature, you need to look at it carefully to understand the jointing on dip and strike and how the joints extend deeper into the hanging wall, the places you cannot see. If they intersect, they may cause a deadly threat in the hanging or side walls. Do not be misled by the sound. This is why seeing is just as important as sounding. Trick number 4. Buddy barring. This trick of the trade shows the importance of having the help of other people when barring. Whenever you bar during entry examination, pre-task, mid-shift, or continuous barring, the help of your crew members must assist you by visually examining the hanging wall for loose rocks. They may notice something that you could have missed. Remember, never bar alone. Approach each task as if your family was watching you. Think of how you could do it safer. Buddy barring is important because buddies can point out hazardous conditions that you may not be able to see. Your buddy should always stand in a safe position at some distance from you if you are barring, and pay close attention to the orientation of joints in the hanging wall. In this way, he may see key blocks or loose rocks that you cannot see, and he can warn you of any potential danger. A buddy can also assist you when barring a particularly large loose block in the hanging wall. A second pinch bar being used will provide additional leverage that may be required to dislodge the block. You both should have firm footing and then proceed to lever the loose rock by pushing the pinch bars upwards at the same time. If you fail to bar the loose rock down safely, the area must be barricaded off and handled according to the procedures for your mine. Always remember that the warning from a buddy can save your life. A second pair of eyes is better than one.